Hi, good morning, everybody. I apologize for the slight delay because I was trying to integrate two of my tools and they weren't talking to each other. You know how that is. Good morning, Tish. Good morning, Barb. Glad to see you here. Welcome to broadcast, everybody. And if you're brand new to the broadcast or you're brand new to me, in case you don't know who I am, I'm Zev Zen of Zev Zen Live and ZevZen.com. And what I do is, folks, I work with experts, primarily speakers and presenters and lifestyle entrepreneurs to help you get more reach and also get more clients using live video strategies. But today I'm starting something new. It's not really new, but I've been doing this for a little while and I just wanted to um, start something more on a consistent basis because I got inspired. Okay. What can I say? Good morning. Good morning, Barb. I see Tish say I'm here. Hi, Tish. Good morning. Good to see you. Barb's in the house, and Barb says good morning. Good morning. So please share this out, folks, because what I'm doing here today is something that I've been doing for a little while, but haven't been that consistent. And I thought, hey, what would be great? I needed to add something inspirational or motivational content to what I'm already doing. And for all of you who are here on my live broadcast, I love creating dynamic live video experiences to just help you connect and engage and build relationships with your folks and your audience. Barb is asking, what app are you using to stream today? I'm using Ecamm Live, Barb. Excuse me. I've been using it for a little while actually, and I love it. What I was trying to do earlier was trying to integrate that with my Crowdcast so I can stream simultaneously to Periscope, but for some reason the stream key didn't work. So that being said, folks, what am I talking here today on the first Wisdom Wednesdays? I'm going to tell you a bit of a story, but today I thought what would be great to get started with this quote right here, and I call my Wisdom Wednesdays words that serve to inspire. So I don't plan to be long on here, but I probably do like a 20 minutes broadcast. But what I would love for all of you out there who are here on the live broadcast, if you're chatting with me, engaging and having a conversation with me, drop your comments. Also say hello. If you're brand new to the show, say hello to me in the comments so I know who's here, and so that I could say hello to you back. All right. So what got me inspired talking about this? Catherine's in the house, and Catherine's saying, let me put what Catherine is saying here. Catherine says, let me put that properly. Catherine says, wow, I talked about relationships on my live stream, and you are the second person today that also has talked about relationships, because it is all about relationships. Boom, a mic drop, lady. Good to see you here, Catherine. Good morning. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. Do y'all want to know what inspired me to talk about this today? Hi, Jake. Good morning. Good to see you. Welcome to broadcast. Good to see you, Jake Turner Coombs. Sorry, Coombs. And I know you're in London. Am I right, Jake? I'm not so sure, but all right. So I'm going to start with this, but before I start with this, right, with this quote, when you have expectations, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. And Ryan Reynolds happened to be one of the, excuse me, I might have a little bit of my cough residue here. Excuse. Oh, folks, sorry. Let me get a bit of my lozenges in. You all don't mind, right? But please share this out. And there's my Zev boom. Boom, you got that right again. So I'm going to show you what transpired me to start this Wisdom Wednesdays. First of all, last week, you all know that I love to talk about relationships and talk about building connections, like building authentic, organic relationships, right? And I do that well, I hope, online. So I had a call scheduled for 30 minutes last week, and then it turned into a 3-hour conversation. Do y'all know how that feels? Because I was so inspired, and guess what? I'm going to show you something. My notes from an unplanned unplanned conversation. And I'm going to share a little bit with this. Hopefully I can get this in 20 minutes or so. So my Melissa says, sorry, I choked you out when I arrived, Zazen. Yes, you had that effect on me, darling. So, Melissa Reyes, good morning. Oh, you're pretty early there. It's, 8 a.m. In Cali. All right. Let's get started to talk about this. Why I was inspired to start this Wisdom Wednesdays water, Tuesdays water. I know I have to run to the kitchen to get water. But anyways, my 30 minutes conversation with a girlfriend, it was a casual catch up call. You know how that is. And turned into a 3-hour conversation that turned into this paper of notes. And I said, what would be great for me to really, get started and have a conversation on maybe a motivational show and say something about, words that would inspire people, right? And then I went to a networking event the next day. I'm not kidding, but the next day I went to a networking event, folks. Our host, I'm gonna go get the sheet for you. All right, let me get back to my seat here. All right, so my host of the meeting came up with this list, and I don't know if you all saw my my other broadcast that taught a little bit how to get ideas for your broadcast. She gave us a sheet that says words that inspire, words that serve, and I said all these quotes could technically be my content for a broadcast, and that's what's inspired me to do this. So Peaches Quinn of the of our business club, our breakfast club right here in Connecticut, thank you so much for inspiring me to do this. And I want to get started and have this conversation. Melissa says, love to, baby. I love to you. I love to love you, baby. Thank you so much, Melissa. And Catherine is saying, always keep your pen and paper handy when you are listening and chatting, because you need to write that inspiration when it hits. You're absolutely right, Catherine, because what happened was I always have paper where where I am, because I never know. Not that I write too much, but I always have conversations that end up with tons of content. I don't care if it's business, live streaming content or broadcasting content or just content for life and business. And I said, what would be great is just to have this in a conversation in a live broadcast. And Melissa says, the word for the week I'm celebrating is challenge. Be sure to catch up with Melissa Reyes' show, Inspiring Adventures. She does weekly words. So, I think I'm in tune with you here, right, Melissa? So, all right, let's talk about this, right? So I'm going to tell you why I picked this topic, and this quote. When you have expectations, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. Ryan Reynolds. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. I don't know if you actually have experienced this, but growing, I feel, it is my personal and humble opinion, I feel that over time, we will all learn how to manage expectations. Yes or no? Agree? If you agree, say agree in the comments so that I know you agree. Or if you have anything else to add, please say so. So here's what it is, what transpired this. I thought about recently, this is a personal story. So please be kind to me because I think everybody can resonate with this. So recently, as of late December, you all know, maybe some of you are familiar with my story. I had a little bit of a sandstorm, right? And that included personal relationship. And one of the things, I think a lot of what I was going through, and then suddenly when the student is ready, the teacher appeared, I had a lot of that experiences, whether it's friends or people that I've known online from personal groups, and I've never really known what they do, and suddenly they come into my life. They've been teaching me a lot of life lessons, including managing expectations. So I've recently had a little bit of a challenge with a personal relationship. And what happened was, I was thinking like, why am I going through this? And why is there so much stress? Y'all know what that feels like, right? If you do, just say yes. So I know that you've experienced it too. So what happened was, I was going through this and I said, what really caused my expectations? Why do I have expectations? Because I feel expectations, do y'all agree, and intentions are two different things. Because if you were to read this, when you have expectations, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. For instance, oh, I have to hit this goal, just because they say that I have to, then I get rewarded. Just because they say to. That's other people's expectations, not yours. Intention is basically you taking the action and running it, right? So Melissa says yes. So what it was I said, what really caused this? So my friend, I'm going to do a shout out to Dr. Dorothy Martin Neville, who actually is of AskDrDorothy.com. She's a good friend of mine. She teaches leadership. I've taken a few of her courses, and she's been on my programs a lot. And she had said to me, she says, when we do that, right, we allow other people to set rules and regulations and standards on us when they don't really know our own values and our own background. Because a lot of what we have as expectations are planted when we were young. So I'm going to give you an example, okay? So I'm reading what Catherine says. I'm laughing. I think we should form a hunting party and take them out, right? Catherine, that's what you're gonna say. Take them out. I agree. So here's what I learned, and I realized it really does go back to my childhood. Here's an example. If you have experience like that, would love to hear it on the sidelines, or just put in the comments. So I was going through this rough patch in the past few months with my sandstorm personal relationship. It was crazy. And I was just like, what, And I used to be that gal. That looks around my house, if you can relate, looks around my house and I, wipe the table and there's dust. I freak out, and I said to myself, oh, I'm so tired during these past few months in the sandstorm. So I was like, oh, I still have to clean the house. I have to go do groceries and all that stuff. Can you all relate, especially if you're women? So suddenly I thought about, I made a commitment to pay attention to myself, honoring who I am and, doing things that provide me joy and happiness and my true core, because I needed to get up from this sandstorm. And one of the things I learned was thinking about cleaning the house, thinking about, all the dust. Where did this come from? And I had so much work to do to catch up. Work was already behind. And I thought about, wow, these are all expectations of who? And I realized, and I dug really deep, and I thought, where did this come from? So I realized when I was much younger, right? My mom, my late mom, okay? She actually, Saturdays and Sundays were our cleanup day, like every week. We take care of the house, we clean, blah, blah, blah. That's a schedule to it, okay? Now, Zeph grew up, and I'm thinking, well, you know what? That's her expectations, right? Because she taught me how to do that. I'm not saying that, it's not a good thing to learn how to clean house. Awesome. But whose rules is it to you have to clean house certain time of the day, like every Saturday, every Sunday? That was her stuff, right? That wasn't mine. And I'm thinking I created my own stress, even though, I didn't know it then. But those are all expectations, have you, and I started thinking about, and I talked to my girlfriend, Kenya, and Kenya, if you're listening to this, I wish you were here today and we could have this conversation. We talked about this because we said, well, we were so programmed, we were so conditioned that it all became a part of us. Our life was managed by other people's expectations. And now when at a certain age and going through some trauma, some challenges, some stories in your life, some journeys, experiences, you go whose expectations are those, right? They don't really make me happy. I don't really like to clean that much. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, I was thinking about, do y'all agree? Do you feel the same way? Have you had people say, oh, you got to do it just because other people do this way? An example in business. So that actually spills over in business. Have you had a time where people will tell you, oh, you have to do your business this way because everybody else is doing it, right? But they don't really know your background story. They don't really know your needs, your challenges, and they have expectations. But the question is, how are we managing those expectations? So back to my mom and me and how I grew up having that expectation. I realized one of the challenges, is, for me at least, it was cultural upbringing. See, the conversation started with, my friend wanted to include her kids as part of her branding. And we talked about, she's having a challenge, and she said she doesn't want her children to grow up, thinking that she's very stern with them or in putting her expectations on them. They need to be, they need to grow up and be their own in their own terms. But the thing is that I was talking about, we culturally have been so conditioned and programmed, and we have this expectations that was, like inherited. We inherited in our those expectations, and suddenly we're all stressed out. Do you all feel this, or have you actually gone through this? Because if you have, I would love to hear what you have to say. And that's what I'm saying about, when you have expectations, you really are setting yourself up for disappointment, for stress, for failure, because one, other people's expectations on you is based on their experiences, their values, their cultural upbringing, their programming, their conditioning. But at the end of the day, you or I have to make that decisions for ourselves. Take everything into consideration, right? As part of growing up, and take a look at it and go like, wow, that person says I need to do this, but are we are we the same, in the same value, in the same cultural upbringing? Example was when I said to my girlfriend, Kenya, we talked about that, and we talked about cultural upbringing and conditioning and programming. And I said, you know what? My late mom was a working class, and I'm an entrepreneur. Different lifestyles. So the expectation of cleaning up for her is really Saturdays or Sundays, we do clean up because that's the only days that she have, right? So she has to manage chores in a different way. And I'm thinking, here I am. I literally, because I work from home, I can literally work on the go. I can manage that by doing any time of the day. So here's my thoughts, and the fact that I can clean. Do I really need to clean, or can I hire somebody to clean? So I think managing expectations, be careful of whose expectations they are. Because especially if it's other people's expectations imposed on us, then I think that's that's something that we really have to weigh out, because we may be two different people living two different lives, two different backgrounds, two different conditioning, programming, upbringing. Now, I would love to hear what you're thinking. Do you agree? And so Barb says, curious as to whether you've ever done the work by Byron Katie Zev. Sure has come in handy in my life story. No, I have not, Barb, and I thank you for sharing that, and I will definitely check that out. Now you got me curious. I think I'll definitely look at it after this. And then Melissa is saying, I try to stay in the moment and know I am doing the best I can right now. Absolutely, and that's awesome, and staying in the moment sometimes. So talking about this, Melissa, and I think many of us, especially us entrepreneurs, we try to stay in the moment sometimes, but sometimes life takes over, business take over, and sometimes we need planning. But we often forget, yes, we have to appreciate whatever we're going through in life in the moment, so that we don't have big expectations. And then if we don't meet those expectations, because like I said, expectations and intentions, two different things. And when we have those expectations, we over expect, and especially those expectations are not ours, are actually somebody else's. That's going to be very stressful. And Becky says, hey Becky, good morning. Good to see you here, girl. Welcome to broadcast. I hope you're feeling a little bit better today. So let me put what Becky's saying here. Becky says, my whole life was not living up to others' expectations of me. Now I embrace a life without expectations. Boom, boom. Fist bump, girl. Boom. On my drop. Pew. High five. I love that you said that. So I'm gonna say something about that, Becky. So here's the thing, right? This has a lot to do with cultural, I think, upbringing. So I was raised in Malaysia, and I was born into a Muslim family. Now, culturally, parents, or even Asian, Southeast Asians, Indians, anybody in the Southeast Asia, Chinese, parents' expectations are huge. And I really talk about, okay, I'm not a parent, but I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of a child. Okay. My parents really had great expectations for me. And I tell you, so if you have kids, I'm going to tell you this. It is a lot of stress, people. I'm going to tell you a little story. Becky says, fist bump. I love that girl. Fist bump, fist bump. Here you go. Fist bump in love. Boom. All right. I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to tell you why I'm saying that. All right. To what Becky is just saying. My whole life was not living up to others' expectation of me. Now I embrace as a life without expectations. When we're an adult and we've come to a time in life that we actually realize this, and this is why I'm talking about managing expectations, is that we tend to grow into it and we learn and we understand it. Now I'm going to tell you from a child's perspective, being born in a cultural that is a little bit of a different than a Western culture. So Asians, Southeast Asians, being Southeast Asian, our parents have, I mean, I think generally everywhere, right? Parents have these great expectations. I'm going to take, for example, in my case, telling my story because it's easier to tell. So, being born in Malaysia and in a Muslim family, right? Parents have great expectations. I think parents everywhere in the world. But I think it's tricky for the little child because sometimes those expectations don't really, don't really match, right? The individual. I'm going to tell you why, from my perspective as a child when I was younger. What I've learned in my mature age as an adult is that I realized I haven't been really a great student when I was younger, but I was very smart, creative, as y'all can see the line of work that I've picked. So what happened was I had cousins who were really, smart, went to universities. It was a standard some sort in the culture that, oh, just because your cousins are going to boarding school, I'd like you to go to a boarding school. Now, since your cousins flew to Australia or London, Dublin College of Surgeons, and I want you to be a doctor or attorney too. Have you all had one of those experiences? I want to tell you, it was very stressful. I wasn't a smart student, but, well, my mom found me a way, my late mom, found me a way to get me into a boarding school. Why? I love her because the fact that, I'm going to disclaimer, love the woman. She knows what's good for me. But I felt such a struggle in the boarding school because I didn't feel that I connected, or I didn't feel like I belonged. It's like, I felt that, wow, I have to live up to this expectation, and it wasn't me. It was so difficult. So I can certainly relate, to when you have expectations, you are setting yourself up for disappointment, because now I'm carrying my parents' expectations, right? And I'm carrying their expectation to succeed at the boarding school, and then hopefully after our huge general exam, I would get one of the what should I say, sponsorship to fly abroad, overseas, USA, New Zealand, Australia. Back then it was Australia, New Zealand, the US or the UK. And it was such a stressful moment because I had to make it work. I had to make it work until I achieved one of those standards of expectations. So I just want to say it was very stressful. It created a lot of friction between my late mom and I. And that's my story. So I think I'm sharing this because I want us all to remember that, when we put expectations on other people, even though they're our own flesh and blood, it could be really stressful for the other person, because the other person may have a different identity or personality or character or background, different challenges, different journeys, different experiences. And for us to say, we can create, we can inspire and motivate them to achieve certain standards. But when you have that expectation, no, I want you to go to boarding school. No, I want you, my daughter, to go and study abroad because your cousins did that. Or I want you to be, in a certain university because it's an expectation. So I realized that it was hard for the recipient, me, in the end, to manage that. So I just didn't know if you all feel the same way, and I just wanted to share that I really feel, and now I've learned it in a bigger way, right? When you have expectations, you really are setting up yourself for disappointment. In business, for example, right? Goals and expectations are two different things. Goals, you try really hard, but expectations, like, are things like people tell you to do this, but they don't really know your challenges, your experiences, your background story. And just because other people are doing it, we want you to do it too. So the question is, what do you need to do to manage this? Because at the end of the day, it affects your personal life, it affects your business life, it affects your relationships. And personally, I've had to learn how to manage and master this. That now these days, why I'm going to tell you why I actually have done it very well is the fact that I say, at the end of the day, the core of my existence is my joy and happiness. When I know who I am, I know what I want, and I'm guided to do the right thing. I keep that as my core, and therefore managing other people's expectations of me, or sometimes thinking that I might accidentally create an expectation, and like a crazy expectation for myself, and I shake it off because I'm thinking, like, you're expecting too much. I'm not saying that you shouldn't work hard, but you're expecting too much because it's not real. So let me read a few people's comments here for a minute. Let me just pull them into the broadcast here. Melissa says, having a vision for yourself and seeing yourself in a certain light or someone you love is different than setting an expectation. Having a vision for yourself and seeing yourself in a certain light or someone you love is different than setting an expectation. It is limitless. Love that, Melissa. Thank you for sharing. And Becky says, I told my looks to do what will make them happy and feel their own version of success, which is a direct result of having expectation put on me as a kid. I'm going to read that again. I told my looks to do what will make them happy. Oh, got it. And feel their own version of success, which is a direct result of having expectations put on me as a kid. I guess you're absolutely right, but it's all things that we learn through, younger, when we were much younger. And I think we all go through the time when we actually learn how to handle certain things in our lives. And for me, it's right now, and managing expectations has been really big for me because I had so much formatting, conditioning, programming since I was so much younger. So I had to really rewire my brains and see things differently. And it's because probably I've done it well these days because I know now who I am and how I serve others. Becky says kids, not looks. So I'm going to put Becky's message here. So Becky says, I told my kids to do what will make them happy and feel their own version of success. I love that. Now that makes sense. I love that, Becky. And you're absolutely right, because it's important to remind, to remind other people, especially our kids, that they need to have their own version of success, or whatever that looks like. Now, I just want to say thank you all for being here. I just wanted to share that. And all right, one more from Melissa, and I love what she's saying here. Melissa says, at the core of a relationship, when we put expectations on someone, it is because we love them. It isn't meant to pressure them, although it does. That's the fine line, Melissa, because this is huge what Melissa just said. Melissa said, at the core of a relationship, when we put expectations on someone, it is because we love her. Exactly. But the other person of a different personality, different upbringing, different conditioning, different mindset, right? It's looked at it as differently. It may be looked at it as differently. Agree? Hey, we all have spouses. Most of us does. Most of us do. So, and you're absolutely right. It does put a pressure with that on them. We say it out of love. Maybe sometimes we think, oh, it's say out of love, because we want you. But I've now learned how to counter that. And I personally have to tell myself, right? After saying that, I personally have to tell myself, I understand this person's build up, background, personality, character, and therefore I tell myself it is okay to share this, but it's also okay for them or him or her to go their own way, to take that value, whether they want to, they want to do anything with it or not. Totally fine. Once I tell myself that, and I've learned how to do that, I become much more, those expectations become much more manageable. And that's my trick, because I've had to teach myself to say, hey, Zaf, it's okay if other people don't want to do business with you, or it's okay other people don't agree with you. So here's one of the things we talk about: expectations. I think when it comes to food, politics, religion, nobody's really wrong, because everybody has their own perspective, values, and their own conditioning, their own program, their cultural upbringing. When they say something and we disagree, that's because we both have different expectations. We both have different values. We all have different cultural upbringing, programming, conditioning. Y'all agree? So all this transpires into relationship and business. And especially if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, whether you like it or not, you're actually one person. So anything that you do in your personal life, it actually transpires into a form of it is there in your business life also, right? It spills over. So I agree with you, Melissa. When we put expectations on someone, it is because we love them, absolutely, bar none, especially from a mom to a child, right? But it sure, adds pressure and stress, because it is a lot, because sometimes we're telling somebody like, oh, we see you. I'm going to tell you something. So here's big disclosure. I don't know if, for some of you who know me personally, I always see the good in people. And that's probably a little bit of my flaw. It's a good thing for my side, but I think a little bit of my flaw, because sometimes it creates expectations. And that's just where I've had to learn really, really hard that it's okay if other people, spouse, brothers, sisters, don't respond the way we see them, their real self. For example, my sister, or we have family members, right, who we know they have more to offer, and we tell them, oh, you're so good at this, why, your suggestion to do this, blah, blah. And sometimes they just shoot you down because they don't see it. So that's two different upbringing, two different mindsets. So if we are not careful, we suddenly put our expectations onto them in a conversation, and them not knowing that, like what Melissa says, it comes from a place of love, right? They would think it's that we're pressuring them and stressing them out. So I'm practicing for myself, so you can share with me if you actually agree with this. One of the things that I've actually been practicing is the fact that I say to myself, after conversation, I'll say something, but you're good at this, but you know what, it's okay if you're comfortable where you are, because you will come in time that maybe you'll think about it again and you're like, yeah, I can do this, or, oh, you're absolutely right, then then that's awesome. So I've had to learn to manage my conversations that way, and also when I talk to the other person, and that's my tip and my trick of how I do it mentally, because for me, I always see the good in people and not realizing, sometimes if I say something like, you can do this, but but if this is not the time for you, then you can always, hold back a little bit and see what may come a little bit later. So thank you, Melissa, for sharing that. And I agree. And I'm going to put what she says after that. It is more often about the expectations we have for ourselves than the other person. Absolutely. And sometimes, like I said, it could just be a very, very simple thing, and it's said out of love. Like, oh my goodness, you can do this, you can rock it. But you know what? That person isn't ready to receive their gift or to carry out their gift. Therefore, suddenly it becomes an expectation on them, and they get stressed out. And if I said that to the other person, I have to say to that person, it's okay if you're not ready now. Maybe you take some time to think about it, and then down the road you'll do something with it. So that being said, I just want to say thank you all for being here today. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for being here, joining me on my first my first Wisdom Wednesdays right here on Zevzan.live, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cindy just caught me here, and Cindy Harrison just joined in. Hi, Cindy. She says, "Good morning, Zaf." Totally agree. I thank you for joining us today, and we are towards the end of the broadcast. I hope you can catch the replay later. But thank you for joining me, and thank you for having this discussion of, when you have expectations, you really are setting yourself up for disappointment or failure or anything else like that. And thank you all. And I hope the next one, I think next week I'm going to do something of a different type of expectation. And then next month, I'm going to start out with my list of quotes. And if you have any quotes that you want to actually have a conversation on, what I would love for you to do is actually drop them in my message on Facebook. Send me a message on Facebook. Let me know what quote you would like me to talk about on the Wisdom Wednesdays Words That Serve to Inspire broadcast. And I would love for you, if you're a broadcaster especially, would love for you to come on screen with me and have a conversation. We can do a quick 20-30 minutes broadcast and then share this out with, share your story with the audience and the folks out there. Barb says, "Thank you too. You're awesome." Thank you so much. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Becky. Thank you all for tuning in today. Bye, everybody. Have an awesome hump day. Bye.